What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Big Dog Brett. Thanks so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share. Leave a comment down below what you think. Now, I'm going to jump into it real quick. This is going to go really fast because I just spent the last 25 minutes doing this same video without turning the microphone on. So, good news is it's a great rehearsal. Bad news is I got to do it again. So, let's just jump right into it. All right, guys. So, we want to look at the main factors in this game. You're talking about Georgia versus Alabama coming up in the SEC championship game. Georgia is 11-1. Alabama is 10-2. To make things short and sweet, we're going to talk about Alabama and Georgia's records real quick. Georgia, in its last 3 games, has scored about 86 points. It is 86 points. They have allowed opponents to score 22. And only one of those has been a touchdown, and that was with Georgia playing against 2 ranked teams, Texas and Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech didn't score any touchdowns. Charlotte didn't score any touchdowns. Texas scored 1 touchdown early in the game. Looking at Alabama, we jump back here and we look at the Alabama game. Alabama in their last 3 games has allowed 41 points. 2 touchdowns Auburn and 2 touchdowns against Oklahoma, but they lost to Oklahoma. And they have scored 30. They've scored 106 points. They hung 56 on Eastern Illinois. Georgia could have scored that much against Charlotte, just chose not to. And you can tell that because Georgia scored 28 points in the first half and then started putting in the 3rd and 4th string guys. So looking at the roster lineups and who's out and who's missing is going to play a big factor. Let me back up. What I wanted to say was I feel like Georgia's defense is ramping up at the right time, and I feel like Alabama's offense is kind of starting to dip down. Only one of those opponents was ranked, which was Oklahoma, and Oklahoma won that game. So I think that Georgia's offense is about where it was at, maybe a little better. You can say, oh, well, they scored 16 against Georgia Tech. Yeah, they scored 16 against Georgia Tech, but if you watched that game, you would have seen Georgia was just doing a bunch of cute stuff. They'd go right down the field and they'd start doing things like a triple option pass and just weird stuff. No reason to do it. Just trying to get too cute. I don't know if they were trying stuff out, but Georgia was able to pretty much run the ball at will. Georgia wasn't concerned about losing that game. Georgia scored when they felt like they wanted to. Gunner thought I didn't have a great day, but also looking at Ty Simpson versus Auburn. Ty Simpson didn't have a great game there either. I feel like Georgia got a day extra of rest after the Georgia Tech game, which I didn't feel like it was a very physical game. Alabama played Auburn on a Saturday, and I felt like that was a very physical game. So I wonder how much that's going to play into the game when we get to tomorrow. Looking at some of the other stuff, we need to talk about some of the players that are out. I think there's 12 players out for Alabama, and I think there's 7 for Georgia. So I'm going to go over those guys real quick. Tight end Ethan Barber's out. He's been out all season. Safety Kyron Jones is out with a foot injury. Wide receiver Colby Young is out with a leg fracture. He's been out for a while. Bo Walker is out. He's had surgery or is having surgery, so he's out for the season. Defensive lineman Jordan Hall is out with a knee injury. Center Drew Bobo is out with a foot or ankle. Safety Zion Branch is questionable. The safety position is the safety and Drew Bobo being injured are the only 2 that really had any questions for me for concerns. Georgia's secondary hasn't been great for most of the season, but has shown remarkable improvement here as of late. Drew Bobo being a center, he's really good. He's going to be replaced by Malachi Tolliver, 320-pound, 6'5" guy out of Cartersville. Great offensive line guy, great center. He was where's it at? 24/7 Sports had him listed as the 82nd interior offensive line prospect and 124th in Georgia. The 36 OIL prospect and 66 in the state of Georgia, according to ESPN. So he's highly ranked, recruited, all that fun stuff. He's 13-1 last year. Took his team to the semifinals, 12-2 the year before as a junior. So he's got a lot of experience playing in high caliber postseason games. And he's a huge dude. He's been coached at Georgia. He's been there for a little while now. I think he's got some play time in, so he should be fine. Now, Talk about Alabama Crimson Tide. Alabama's Crimson Tide's got a boatload of guys out. Defensive back Cameron Howard's out. Defensive lineman LT Overton's out, which I think is probably going to be one of the biggest factors of the game. Running back Kevin Riley's out. Defensive back Dre Kirkpatrick is out. Offensive lineman Maul Waldrop. Defensive lineman Jeremiah Beeman, however you want to say his name. Linebacker Jay Morin Latham's out. Linebacker Kelby Collins is out. Running back Jam Miller is out. I think that's a huge one. Offensive lineman Cam Dewberry's out. I think that's a huge one. Tight end Josh Cuevas is questionable. I think is absolutely gigantic. And tight end Danny Lewis is out. The reason that I think that the tight end Josh Cuevas and the offensive lineman being questionable to return is because you typically don't put a guy on there as questionable if you think he's going to play. You just want the other team to kind of have to prepare for him. Now, when we were talking about their tight end, we're talking about Josh Cuevas or Cuevas, however you want to say his name. He is their leading tight end in receptions and yards. He's had 30 receptions on the year, which is more receptions than Latsier Brooks, which is their number 4 tight end, number 4 wide receiver. Cuevas has 341 yards on the season, averaging 11 yards a catch. Absolutely electric player. Missing him is going to be really interesting because then to drop down to the next tight end in that rotation, the guy's only got 8 catches. So that is a big void to lose that guy. Losing anybody as a lineman is bad if that's your starting lineman. I think that left tackle being out is going to be huge for Georgia, an opportunity to get pressure on Ty Simpson. That offensive lineman Cam Dewberry. That's really the guy that I think he's been playing with a cast on his foot. Don't hold me to that, but I think he's been playing with a cast on his foot. If that's the case, get that young man some help. We don't need to be out there playing. Get it. The game's important, but at the end of the day, nobody hurt. So let's talk about the mindset. We've heard a lot about how Georgia players or Georgia can't beat Alabama. They've played them in the past 7 games or something crazy like that. One thing I will point out is that there's never been a season where Alabama has beat Georgia twice in the same season. So that's a statistic that contradicts the other one, this, that, and the other. I don't feel like that plays a factor in this game at all. I feel like Georgia really wants this game. I feel like Alabama's just kind of happy to be here at this point. They didn't think they'd make the SEC championship game. I'm not sure how that's going to play out. I think Georgia has gotten really, really hungry here as of late. That defense is firing on all cylinders. This defense now is way better than the defense that we saw when Georgia played Alabama. The defense that we saw when Georgia played Alabama had just let Tennessee score 41 points. That defense let Ole Miss score 35. That is not the same defense we see now. 1 touchdown in the past 3 games. That's a very, very good defense. I feel like they finally got it figured out and fleshed out now that we're in or late in the season going into postseason. I think that's going to play some factors against Ty Simpson. I think they're going to get pressure on Ty Simpson. If we go back and we look at week 4, Georgia should have, could have won that game. They didn't win it. Alabama did. Hats off to y'all. Congratulations. But Georgia had an opportunity to win that game. If Georgia would have simply kicked the 2 field goals instead of going for it on 4th down, Georgia has an NFL kicker. More likely than not, he would have made at least one of those. Highly likely he would have made both. Georgia kicks the first field goal and makes it. They're certainly going to kick the second one. So in my opinion, that whole game came down to those 2 bad calls on the coaching staff. I get being aggressive, but I don't think Kirby Smart's going to make those same mistakes. Now, back that up one more time. Georgia allowed Alabama to go 13 for 18 3rd down. That is pretty much statistically impossible for that to happen again, even if you play a terrible team. Georgia's not a terrible team, and neither is Alabama. So it makes it extremely unlikely. Georgia gets 1 or 2 more stops in that game. That game's completely different. Georgia wins that game. But now you're seeing Alabama's offense kind of going downhill and defense kind of going uphill. Georgia has I want to say the 6th best rushing defense in the country. So it's going to be really interesting to try and kind of see how Alabama deals with that. I think Georgia is going to try to put a stranglehold on Alabama. I think he's going to play keep away ball. I think that he's going to run the ball. That's what we've seen the last 2 games. Georgia has absolutely dedicated itself to running the ball all season, but really has worked out well here recently. Georgia beat Georgia Tech. pretty much without throwing the ball. Georgia beat Texas, throwing the ball and running the ball. Georgia comes out and can do both. Alabama can't make Georgia one-dimensional. Georgia, it could get ugly. It could get ugly. I don't think that's going to happen. I think you're going to see a relatively low-scoring game. I think some parts of both of these teams are built similar, but I think Georgia holds the edge in the quarterback. Gunnar Stockton capable of really hurting you with his feet. He's really capable of hurting you with his feet. Georgia's number one rusher for touchdowns, Gunnar Stockton. Gunnar Stockton has 8 rushing touchdowns on the season. Ty Simpson only has 2. Ty Simpson has 126 yards rushing on the ground. Georgia, on the other hand, for Ty Simpson, has 126 rushing yards. When you look at Gunnar Stockton has 403, 2.5 times the amount. 8 rushing touchdowns, and he runs for 4 yards a carry. 4 yards a carry by a running quarterback is more than enough to hurt you. More than enough to hurt you. Ty Simpson has 1.7 yards per run. Cam Miller's out. That's your leading rusher, or he's at least going to be impeded. He's only got 500 yards on the season. You look at Georgia's rushing back room, you have Nate Frazier, who's got 800 on the season. I think Georgia's much better at running the ball. I think that Georgia is equal or near equal at passing the ball. Yeah, there's 500 yards difference. I get it between Ty Simpson and Gunnar Stockton in passing, but as of late, man, Gunnar Stockton's more accurate. Gunnar Stockton has a 70% completion percentage. Ty Simpson's at 65. Gunnar Stockton has 20 passing touchdowns. Ty Simpson has 25. One has 4 INTs. The other one has 5. So those aspects are close, but you've got to give the edge to Gunnar Stockton simply because of the rushing threat. I think Gunnar Stockton is very dangerous in there, and there are design plays in Georgia's arsenal for running the ball. Georgia's going to mix it up on defense. They're going to give Ty Simpson a lot to look at. That's when he seems to be the most vulnerable, is whenever he has to look at these, try to figure out what's going on. I think Georgia's going to dial up some really interesting looks he's never seen before. They're going to kind of show out here. To get to the final thing, I think Georgia is very interested in being able to win this game, not because it's going to put us a higher ranked seed in the college football playoff. Georgia's likely going to be in the top 4 anyway, win or lose this game. And by the way, college football playoff committee has lost their minds, but I digress. They can do whatever they want to and have. But I really feel like the system right now is supposed to be, they're not going to punish you for losing a game. If they beat Alabama, they put Alabama at 9. If they beat Alabama, I think they're only going to drop them to 10. And I think they put them at 9 on purpose to insulate them so they can get them in the college football playoff. I think that if Georgia loses this game, maybe they drop to 4 because one of the teams above us has to lose too, because Ohio State and Indiana play one another. We'll see what happens. But I think Georgia wants to win this game because Georgia's just so sick and tired of hearing about Alabama, how you can't beat Alabama. I think Kirby Smart learned from his mistake in not kicking field goals. Whenever you're going to score like 25 to 30 points a game, field goals are premiums. You should take those points. Also, looking at the crazy call that Kalen DeBoer made to go for that touchdown on 4th down against Auburn instead of kick the field goal. He got it, but that's still a bad decision. Should have took the point. And yeah, I get you guys may not feel like you have the greatest kicker in the world. You have a very competent kicker. He could have kicked that, no problem. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be a fun game. I think Georgia wins this game somewhere in the neighborhood of 27-21. You may see a 30-24, but I think Georgia wins this game. I won't say comfortably, but I feel like Georgia wins this game beyond the 2.5 points. Leave a comment down below. What's your thoughts, score predictions? Let me know what you think. Tell me how crazy I am that I've never seen college football. I don't know what I'm doing. Just leave all that down below. Really appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys real soon. We'll be doing lives during the game. Have a great day. God bless.